Hello YouTube, Gaming Goddess here with a review on Final Fantasy XV, an open-world action role-playing game published by Square Enix for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. This game was first announced in 2006 when it was originally going to be a spin-off title for Final Fantasy XIII. Obviously that didn't happen, and in 2012 it was rebranded as the next main title in the Final Fantasy series. This game has an anime adaptation called Brotherhood Final Fantasy XV with 5 episodes total, as well as a movie adaptation. Our game takes place in the fictional world of Eos, where the player takes control of our main character Noctis, who is traveling with his friends Prompto, Gladio, and Ignis. So without further ado, let's get right into the review. I know there's a lot to cover, but first let's take a look at the gameplay. The player travels across the fictional world of Eos, which is made up of 3 divided continents. The player can navigate the world by walking, driving the regalia, or by riding a chocobo. Some of these places will require the player to walk or use a chocobo because the regalia cannot access these areas. Now when it comes to driving the regalia, the player can either let Ignis drive or can take over the wheel with Noctis, which is pretty cool because we can actually crash the car. Now the fun part about having a car and a chocobo as a source of transportation is that they can both be customized. This feature might seem a little unconventional to some, but hey, I think it's pretty cool, so I went ahead and turned my regalia into the ultimate chocobo mobile. But of course you can choose not to customize it too. Now once the chocobos become available to the player can then rent them for a certain number of days. Of course, this will cost the player some gil, but the cool thing about having a chocobo is that it will join the player in battle when the character and the chocobos have a strong enough connection. With the world as big as it is, there is a lot to explore. We have small towns, cities, and even a variety of dungeons. The towns and cities will have multiple shops that the player can access. There are some shops that will sell useful items, ingredients, decals for the regalia, and even soundtracks that the player can listen to while driving. We also have our weapon shop, which will sell weapons and accessories. In any of the cities or towns, the player will also have access to the diners. This is where the player can talk to the NPC, also known as the local tipster, to get information on new places to find treasure, ingredients, parking spots, camping areas, or even fishing spots. Eating from the diner can give the character a short buff. Eating new foods will open up new recipes for Ignis to learn. And finally, the player can accept hunts. Hunts are a type of side quest that the player can do to earn gil or even items. Now whether you are in a town or not, the player can rest to tally up their total amount of experience points gained. The player can choose to rest at a campsite or in a town. Towns will either have a trailer, motel, or a fancy or more expensive hotel. When the player chooses to rest at the campsite, the player can then select which meal they want Ignis to cook. I prefer the camping option since it doesn't cost anything, and if you have the chocobos with you, they will eat and sleep alongside Noctis and his friends, which is super cute. Now each character has their own sets of skills. Noctis can fish, so basically each fish he successfully catches will level up his fishing skill. The more the player travels by foot and collect items on the ground will help improve Gladio's survival skill. Ignis will cook, so every time the player sets up camp, Ignis will level up his cooking skill, and Prompto takes pictures at random times to level up his photography skill. Just like the experience points, these skills will also level up when the player uses one of the rest stops that I mentioned earlier. This game offers a lot of different side quests, dungeons that can be explored, and even a mini-game, but that pretty much concludes the gameplay portion. Let's now take a look at the game's battle system. Final Fantasy XV features an action-based real-time battle system, where the player can select commands such as attack, defend, magic, and items. These battles will take place in the current environment rather than transitioning to a separate battle screen like most Final Fantasy games. These battles can be out in the open plains or in an enclosed building. When the player approaches an enemy, a red bar will appear on the top center portion of the screen and will intensify as the player's party gets closer to the enemy. Once the player attacks or gets spotted, the battle will begin. Defeating all the enemies or running away will end the battle. Noctis has access to a wide range of weapons such as a single and double-handed sword, guns, shields, axes, polearms, and even daggers. The player can equip any 4 weapons onto Noctis through the menu screen. Once in a battle, the player can then manually switch their weapon. The type of weapon equipped will determine the attack speed and the amount of damage it will have on the enemy. There are some attacks that will deal more damage based on Noctis' position, such as a side strike or a blindside. Noctis can also perform a warp strike attack on the enemy, but this move requires magic points. The game also features some story-based attack and weapons that can be found throughout the game. As for the rest of the party members, the player has no control over them. With the game's AI, they will perform their own attacks and will occasionally heal each other during a battle. As the player attacks the enemy, the link meter located in the bottom left side of the screen will fill. Each party member has his own set of skills that the player can select once this meter is full. By using one of the selected skills, Noctis can perform a follow-up attack. Let's now take a look at the magic. As the player explores the world, there will be certain areas where the player can gather fire, lightning, and ice magic. Elemental magic can be equipped to any of the 4 characters. By accessing the Elemency option in the main menu, the player can craft new spells by combining the magic with each other or even with items. This game also features something called ring magic as well as our traditional summon magic. Both ring magic and summon magic is used by Noctis and are story-based. Now, even though we do have summon magic, I found that I wasn't able to use it all the time. It would occasionally come up during a battle, and I wasn't able to pick who I wanted to summon from the deities that you get throughout the game. After each battle and side quest, our characters are rewarded with experience points, gil, and sometimes items. Like I mentioned previously, once the player rests at any of the rest locations around the world, the experience points will be tallied up. Finally, if Noctis dies in a battle and the player can't revive him, then it's game over. Moving on to the graphics and audio, this game features the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen in a video game before, as well as some amazing cinematic cutscenes. Square Enix, you've definitely outdone yourselves here. This game is real smooth, has seamless transitions, and is absolutely gorgeous. Now, one thing that does bother me is the load times. I understand it's a big game file, but waiting for this game to load is just so excruciatingly painful. I'm crying on the inside. Now, I am playing this on the standard PS4, so I'm not sure if playing it on a PS4 Pro would help this issue, but I can't confirm that, so please let me know. Aside from the load times, there are some glitches every now and then, but with a game this big, there's no way I expect it to be graphically flawless, and besides, some of the glitches can be quite funny. As for the audio, this game features some background music, voice acting, and great sound effects. I like that the player can buy soundtracks from other Final Fantasy games and play them via the car or with the MP3 player when running around. Of course, if you don't use the MP3 player, the game has its own music that will play in the background every once in a while, so it's not the same one song for the whole game. The battle music will change depending on the type of enemy the player takes on. Obviously, a boss fight will have different music from a standard fight, so that's pretty cool. Now, if you travel by Chocobo, then the Chocobo theme music will play in the background. And finally, this game is fully voiced in English, Japanese, French, and German. Let's now take a look at the pros and cons based on my opinion. First, some pros would include beautiful graphics, lots of good music, actual character development, a super addicting minigame, fishing, which was probably the most exciting thing I've ever done in a video game, the option to customize the regalia, and of course the story. As for the cons, I wish there were more summons available to the player, the option to own a chocobo instead of just renting one, and of course the load times. Overall, this game was quite the journey, getting to play and watch how Prince Noctis and his friends go on an adventure full of laughs and hardships. Just watching as they grow together was truly an amazing experience for me. I know this game has been getting a lot of mixed reviews because it's not like your traditional Final Fantasy game, but I personally think that's what this series needed to redeem itself. The characters aren't super bland, and it's obvious they put a lot of hard work into this game. Watching as they interact with each other is just so believable, it left me with a good impression. I like that the player can explore and do almost anything they want that isn't story-based, so it's not super linear. Of course, the player is free to follow the story and not do any of the side quests if he or she chooses so, and that's what I like about this game. I was able to beat this game in 74 hours total at a level 58 on normal mode, so it's not a hard game at all. This isn't 100% complete, of course, but I'm definitely going to play this in my free time. It's a great game for fans or even newcomers of the series. So in conclusion, Final Fantasy 15 gets 15 chocobos out of 10. Feel free to leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Also comment down below telling me if you liked this game or didn't like this game. I love reading what everyone has to say. And don't forget to press that subscribe button for more awesome reviews like this one. And hey, if you want to, head over to my Patreon where I post videos a couple of days earlier and give you guys a chance to have your favorite games reviewed. This has been a Gaming Goddess review, and remember to keep on gaming.